Watercolor Lesson 7, Creating a Three-Layer Thumbnail Sketch. Creating a three-layer thumbnail sketch. When does the painting become specific? By now it must be obvious that when I'm trying to learn which elements of an image are essential and which are optional, I'm especially suspicious of these specific bits. Developing the skills that allow me to look right through detail to see the general visual information greatly expands the range of images that seem paintable. Evaluate the subject. The elaborate carvings on the facade of the cathedral at right, for example, make it seem like a daunting subject. So much information makes it difficult to imagine where to begin. Proceeding from light to dark and from general to specific should help me find a simple way to interpret a complex subject. When I squint hard at the photograph of the cathedral, the complex carvings lose specificity, becoming simpler, more general shapes. I can begin to see them as a layer of middle value forms laid on top of a lighter layer. Identify the lights and add the first layer. At this stage of the study, it's not necessary to be concerned with content. To keep from getting specific prematurely, trust that the middle values and dark layers will provide the meaning. With the progression of layers in mind, I can look through the distracting detail to see the underlying structure of the lights. In the image at right, the first layer is a collection of pale, warm, neutral strokes. The whites that are reserved between those strokes make a similar abstract pattern. I was able to identify where the strokes would occur, how many there would be, and what kinds of marks would be appropriate by asking very general questions about proportion, distribution, and pattern. Before beginning the stage, I asked myself, what percentage of the page is white? What is the fundamental orientation of the whites? Horizontal, vertical, diagonal? Do the whites occur in predictable locations? The answers to these questions provided basic guidelines that were not overly specific. I knew, roughly speaking, that the whites would make up a little less than half the page, that they would mainly be horizontal and vertical lines, and that they would correspond to the upward and right-facing edges of shapes. As long as these general requirements were met, I could stay abstract and progress gradually from general to specific information. By themselves, the pale first layer washes do very little to create an effective illusion of light or space or substance. They're very general, like the rough outline of a piece of writing, mostly nouns, a couple of verbs, and no adjectives. Because these shapes will be partly covered by increasingly descriptive layers, they can often be applied quickly and casually. Add the middle values. The second layer is also a pattern of strokes guided by the same sort of general question I asked previously. These cool neutrals cover about 20% of the page and occur below the whites and along the left side of the light strokes. Can you see the pattern that determines where the warm strokes were touched into the larger cools? On a sunny day, the downward-facing surfaces of light-colored objects catch reflected sunlight and appear noticeably warmer than the surfaces that up or out. More care is needed at this point to locate the strokes, but it's still not necessary to describe specific forms. We need to know where the middle values go, but we don't need to know how precisely what they are. Apply the darks. By the time I had completed the image at right, much of the complexity of the scene that had made it initially intimidating had been distilled down to 3 loosely applied layers. Yet there's a sense of light and space which is essential. At this point in the process, I could have called the painting finished. Or I could have kept adding ever more specific information. The door was open. The relatively few darks should be more carefully located than the first 2 layers. They describe openings and deep recesses, which need to be in specific places. So for your assignment today, I want you to create a 3-layer thumbnail sketch of any subject you would like. Make sure that it has intricate details for you to distill, like the cathedral.